Hello everyone, I'm Asib and I'm going to be doing a dev vlog today. So I've been working on this side project for I think since mid-July, and I'm going to pretend that this is like a day zero vlog, but it's not really. I've been working on the project for like 2 months already, and I just wanted to talk about what the project was, and hopefully keep kind of a diary of my development work as I'm doing the project, showing off features, what's going on, what is it about, and hopefully that'll keep me a bit more honest and provide motivation to actually finish the project as well, rather than leaving it half undone. And the project I'm talking about today is Banter Bus. So again, I'm going to pretend like this is like July 15th when I started the project, rather than September 24th when I'm actually recording this. But I'll try and do more regular dev vlogs of the progress and what's going on. So Banter Bus is going to be this web application, quote-unquote video game browser base, which is like kind of inspired by party style games like Jackbox or Gartic Phone, or anything you can kind of play on your phone at a party with a group of friends. And I'm going to keep it really simple and have like one game that you can play for now, and build it so that you can expand and have other games that we can play at different stages. Banter Bus for me is an interesting project, mostly because I've tried making it a couple of times, and each time I've just kind of lost motivation and stopped, and I'll talk about why that was. So if we come and take a look at my GitHub over here, if you come over here, I used to have this on GitLab in a group, but I didn't really want to maintain groups for projects I wasn't really working on, so I kind of removed it from GitLab, but you can still see it on GitHub. But you'll see that there's a bunch of these Banter Bus projects here, and some with the name deprecated. These three here I'm not really working on. So originally I thought the idea of I've always used side projects as a way to learn something. So a new programming language or a new technology, or something like that. And I thought it'd be really cool to work on a multiplayer game that I could play with my friends. At university we used to play Jackbox a lot, and it was a really fun party game. So I thought it would be really cool if I built my own party game that people could play, and you didn't really need to install anything. You just needed a browser and your phone, and you could go off. And also it'd be cool because it's something I've built, right? So I started this, I think, during COVID a couple of years ago, and I started writing originally this very first version here that you see in Go, and I wanted to split it out and practice like kind of this microservices architecture because I hadn't really worked on it, and I wanted to learn Go as well. So I had this management API which would manage things like adding questions, adding new games, various other things. I can't really remember what else I had. I had this concept of stories, which would be like, Instagram stories, where you could see like highlights of the game and save that, which is really interesting idea. I never really got implemented, and a bunch of other stuff. But essentially this was just going to be providing a way to easily add stuff to the database. Mostly it would have been questions, adding new questions, probably on some form of UI, like an admin dashboard or something, right? And again, I wanted to learn Go. At the time I was basically just doing Python, so I built this, and the management bit was working. Then I moved over to something I called the core API, and at the same time I was building the GUI. I think I was building the GUI in React, and then later on in Svelte. But yeah, anyway, so for the core API I started off doing it in Node, TypeScript, and then again kind of got a bit bored and stopped. And it was around this time I also I started working for a company, and I was predominantly doing Python still, and it was a bit weird, like rather than brushing up on my Python skills and working on stuff that I could then take to work, I was kind of learning these other languages, and I decided, you know what, let's just do a clean rewrite, do it in Python. So I rewrote both of these components in Python, and then did the front end in Svelte, and I had this whole project structure. I had a Discord server as well, where, you know, I would have stuff going into there, you know, CI updates, code updates. The idea was at some point I would bring some of my friends along and other people, and we could collaborate in there and work on the project. But yeah, essentially I wanted to take a look at how I could improve my Python project. So for example, here, if you come into app, I've tried to, you know, do quote unquote structuring by domain. So everything related to rooms would be here. And this was a WebSocket based API because we needed kind of a real-time connection. So the user would send an event, oh, I'm trying to join a room. And then the server would return, oh, okay, you successfully joined the room or you didn't join the room. And that, you know, I got pretty far. I got to the bit where people would be able to vote. Again, obviously, you know, those are detail specific, but I got to the bit where the main game loop was actually going to be almost done being implemented. And then again, I swapped and started working at a different place where we now started using Go, or I needed to learn Go. And it was a bit weird, and I'd kind of lost motivation to maintain this bit of Python code when I'm trying to learn this new language, Go, and the Go ecosystem. So I put that on pause, did a couple of other side projects in the meantime, like OptiNix was one of them. And then recently I kind of finished OptiNix and I was looking for another project to start, and I decided why not give Banter Bus another go. And so that's kind of what I did, or want to do, and hopefully this time I will finish it. A few differences with this kind of quote-unquote iteration of Banter Bus, which could be version 3 actually, is I was going to try, it hasn't been quite successful, but originally I wanted to kind of MVP it, get something working as fast as possible, not worry too much about particularly front end. One of the reasons I lost motivation is, you know, I'm predominantly a backend engineer, and I found writing the Svelte code or the React code, I found that very tedious, doing the CSS styling. So if I could reduce that to a minimum, you know, write less JavaScript, that would make it easier. So let's iterate fast, just build something. The UI doesn't have to look pretty, or it just has to be functional, and I could get something. Again, it hasn't quite worked like that because, again, part of the reason I do these side projects is to learn, and so I've got distracted. I've been practicing Nix, which if you've seen any of my other videos, you know I talk a lot about Nix, and I really like Nix. And so, you know, I wanted to see how I could speed up CI, which again is related to some of the stuff I do at work. And I was like, let me see how can I speed up pipelines for my own project, and look at creating reproducible environments, reproducible Docker images with Nix and stuff like that. Stuff that potentially I could take into work, or at least practice learning and seeing how I can get about some of these things like reproducible builds, and, you know, being able to run kind of these CI pipelines, which I will definitely go into, probably not this vlog, but I'll definitely go into for a future dev vlog about how I did that and why I did that, etc, etc. And so if we take a look at what the current stack looks like, so essentially, again, as I said, I originally started this July 14th, and we're kind of pretending this is like a July 13th vlog, which is not, but that's neither here nor there. But the tech stack is pretty straightforward. It's Go with WebSockets, HTMX for the front end, which is being served from the server itself, and Templ to do the templating, with Nix for the development environment mostly, and then it's also being used in CI as well. It's being used to create a CI image, which is pretty cool. And that's the basic tech stack. And then I've also recently integrated Playwright, which again I'll get more into that in a later vlog. But Playwright to do end-to-end tests, written using Go. So there's basically no JavaScript involved. I think there's Alpine.js I've heard works quite well with HTMX. Haven't needed that yet, so I haven't included it. But yeah, that's kind of what the current state of Banter Bus, or what my thinking was, and kind of what's going on with Banter Bus and kind of the history of Banter Bus. I've always wanted to kind of build this. I thought it'd be a really cool side project, kind of show my friends. I think that, as has already happened, I've learned a lot just from building this. Never really done stuff with WebSockets, and I'm sure there'll be various bits of optimizations and other things I can do and especially I've got to practice with this project a lot more about the Go concurrency model, playing around with Go routines, listening and replying, listening on a Go routine and various other things. And I've gone better with Go concurrency, which I haven't had to really do a lot of. I've read about it, but it's not the same as actually doing it, which is nice. And then also when I go about deploying this application, I can look at other stuff like, Grafana, Prometheus, logs, like how can I monitor it? So that, you can do a lot with your application. But as I said, originally what I really wanted was to build something really, really fast, which has not happened. But again, I think a lot of the stuff with the side projects is learning, and there's been lots of learnings for me in this. I also forgot to mention, sorry, in the tech stack, for now I'm using SQLite just to keep things really simple. I'm going to have it just running on one server. A few things that I might consider Redis, especially for syncing state, like who's in which room, because you could have multiple groups playing at the same time, so you'll have this idea of rooms, so people will join a room, and you'll have hosts and they will be able to start the game, etc, etc, like you do with Jackbox, Gartic Phone, Scribble, all these kind of browser-based games that you may have played. But yeah, so we're going to keep it really simple for now. We might add more components, might need to move to Postgres, especially if you want to scale, but there's some other cool stuff I've seen with SQLite from Fly.io, including stuff like LightFS, which can keep two SQLite files or databases in sync. So who knows? But for testing and stuff, it makes it pretty simple. I don't need a Docker Compose file at the moment. I don't need to spin up anything in CI really to do the testing, which is pretty nice. But yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted to do, where I'm getting at, and it's not gone exactly as I wanted, but I think it's been pretty good. One other thing it's not just been my sole focus. I've been bouncing between a few projects, which in the past, usually when I work on a project, I just work on that. But, there's been this YouTube stuff. I've been doing some home labbing stuff, self-hosting, which I should start a video series. I've got a blog I also maintain. So there's been a few things that have also kept me a little bit busy. So I haven't just been focused on Banter Bus, but hopefully try and make steady progress. So it's kind of, you've got, different components, and I think the lobby bit is basically done and just need to tidy up and make the front end actually look good. So if I actually show you in its current state, which again, I think my original plan for this vlog was to show you at a specific commit, which was going to be like a month in, but it doesn't really matter. So if I do task dev, and I've got a video coming up about task files and Go task as a makefile alternative. Let's keep an eye on that. But if I do localhost 8080, as you can see, I really kept the UI very, very minimal here. There's barely no CSS. I keep forgetting things in the tech stack. Another thing was TailwindCSS. I'm using Tailwind CSS for styling. So again, I guess let's reiterate the tech stacks. We've got Go with WebSockets, then SQLite as the database, Templ for templating in Go, HTMX for the actual front end, Tailwind with HTMX for the styling. And I think hopefully I've covered the main bits. But yeah, so we've got something basic like this, and it theory should work. Yeah, so create a room. Again, looks really simple, but someone else could come and join this room. And I know I said I wanted to work on just the main features, but I've done a few superfluous things, like allowing people to update their nickname, update their avatar if they really want. And then this bit here is what I'm calling the lobby, where people can get ready, and you kind of have this host player, which is going to be this person. If you don't provide a nickname, you get a randomly generated one. And yeah, and again, this is a bit of a weird vlog because I'm pretending it's like day 0, but I'm really mixing it with like month 2. But whatever, it's fine. But yeah, in the other vlogs, I'll probably go deeper on like specific topics. So like reproducible environments, for example, showing you how I've actually set up with one of my projects. Maybe I'll talk about Air, how I'm doing reloading, generating stuff. Probably one on SQLC as well, which is a really cool way to generate Go SQL code, or SQL from SQL queries generate Go code, which will run those SQL queries. It's a really interesting tool. Remove the need for me to use a ORM. This is a very rambly video. There's not, unfortunately, I haven't really been very active in actually showing you guys stuff, but yeah, that's kind of my thinking. Hopefully somewhat interesting. The future videos will be more interesting because be a bit more technical, and I'll be showing off like a specific area. But yeah, so in terms of next steps, I've basically just been doing a bunch of like bug fixing, adding some end-to-end tests, and then I'll tidy up this UI and make it look somewhat pretty, and worry about making it look more pretty later on, probably. Again, not a front-end developer. It's not stuff I really enjoy, but obviously I can't just leave it looking like this. But yeah. Oh, I use Nix, by the way. I don't know if you heard or not.